Yeah, hello everyone. Does this say any good morning? Let me have a coffee, morning coffee. Yesterday, I just want to make a quick video concerning about how players, most especially African players, are really facing challenges when it comes to starting their journey, professional journey in Europe. So I will start with the African clubs that are in Africa selling their players to Europe. This is something that they really need to work on it because most of these players, like in Africa, we have different categories of play. Like we have third division players, we have second division, first division, we have academy. So it's really important for them to understand that when you are in academy, you might have the structures of like how we believe here. Most of the time, you have to be teaching like the basics, where you have to start a lot of things with the mindset and so on from the grassroots to the upper level, like how the European structure is. But unfortunately, sometimes we cannot have that. Some clubs have it, some clubs might not have it. A majority of them might not have that. But now we're really transforming that to make sure that they have to have the academic level to the upper level from the grassroots. But the reality is, in the case of Gambia and in the case of certain countries like maybe let's say Uganda or other countries, but they're really coming up. Like most of the players, sometimes you can have them in second division, sometimes you can have them in third division. So when we say third division, is the third division qualifiers from the second division to the first division. Now, most of those players, sometimes they're already grown. They have not been taught like a lot of things like, let's say, the sleeping routine, let's say, the way of being a professional. So it's always a challenge for those people when they're sold in Europe. It will be a very, very difficult time for them to understand and adapt. Some of them might adapt quickly, but like let's say out of 100, it might be like 20% or even 15%. But some of them might completely not adapting about how they live their life as a professional, most especially if you sign a contract in Europe. So, like I always say to some of the players, like if you're in Europe, when you find some people there because you're selected out of the best. So when you are the best, you find the best there. You have to, if they're doing 10, you have to do 20. Why you have to do 20? Because those people are already having that kind of structures in them, which is how to eat, like the proteins, the carbohydrates, and so on, the nutrition that you need in your body. They have to understand that you have to eat 5,000 calories a day, that you have to sleep 8 to 9 hours the night. Like you make sure that the routine of the professional way that you have it. But most of the time, some of these players might go and they will not adopt that. They will think, okay, they're in the local system still now, which is really affecting their development. And those are the attributes that has to be part of player development. So sometimes when you found out those people, when you go to Europe settings, it's always a challenge. Sometimes, most especially when you go for trial, you fail it because there's some things that you cannot adapt. Yes, I understand that most players in Africa, if you're coming from, because Africa is hot, in most of the country, most especially in the west part. So it's really hot. And now you go to a country like the Scandinavia, it's so cold. So adopting that is a big challenge, which I really understand. But when it comes to certain things also, because when you come to the club, they will understand that you have to adapt the culture, you have to adapt certain things. But now I will challenge the African teams that most especially when they are preparing their team, because football is all about business, but in a business way where also we develop along the players' development to grow, because that's how you can sell your product to be good. But when it comes to certain times selling your product, sometimes they just skip the player and they just leave. We have to start with the foundation that when you're having a club in Africa, try to structure it in a way that when the player is in the Europe, it will be easy transition for the person. It will be easier for also the owner of the club to make sure to sell the product. Because when the product is sold to Europe or sold to another country in Europe, other bigger clubs, and that player is not adapting and they are teaching the person all those kind of ingredients that he have to take, and that's not there for months, for years, it's always a challenge for that individual to progress to another stage. It's always challenging. Sometimes it might not be only be the reason, that might be the reason, but most of the reasons is like the adaptation of the culture of that country and also of that club. So most of the time you prepare. That's why sometimes when it comes to player welfare side, they teach you the languages. They teach you a lot of things concerning how the player need to be developed, how the player need to be progressed, how the player need to think when it comes to the professional level. So you are no more in the local level, but now in the professional level. So that requires investment. Now, one of the things that also you have to teach your players, the life skill that you have to understand, because you also have to create a leadership role when it comes to them within. So with that, it has to take that kind of sense of giving them the belonging. That's why whenever they travel, they will fit in the system. Sometimes it's a challenge. Even myself, I will be part of the system, but sometimes it's a challenge to fit in. So how you're gonna fit in is try to move your ways to show the progressive of you, how you're progressing with with what you are given the opportunity. If it is a work, how are you gonna progress with the work? If it is a player, how are you gonna progress with the player? Is to give you the stuff. That's why many of the players, if they travel, they cannot speak English or they cannot speak French. Most especially English people, they're in France, it will be difficult because they're not speaking French. So it's up to you as a player also to adapt that kind of adaptation to make sure it helps you to grow. Because if you don't have that, I'm sorry for you, it will be a bigger challenge for you. And now when it comes to the aspect of the club also, it's a big tax to make sure the club also have to give you that opportunity and have to give you that space to make sure helping you to grow. Giving the opportunity and the space also need to help you to grow. Not only about giving you the opportunity space, but helping the player to grow as well. And how? First, you have to build that relationship. And second, you have to make sure you have to understand the individual, because many people are different. When we talk about team, everybody have your different skills, but how you can manage those different skills is a big job. It's a real big job, but what you can do first is to be closer to them, is to understand their frustration, understand their pain, and how you can help them. Some of them cannot be helped, which I really understand, because sometimes it can be beyond, because even myself sometimes, working or talking to them players is a challenge. But we have to press all the buttons. Maybe if all the buttons are exhausted, that's the time we say, okay, the only thing we can see, maybe a miracle can come. But as long as we wouldn't press all the buttons, I'm not convinced that still now the player cannot be changed or the player cannot adapt. So it's always challenge, and it's always let me have small coffee. The coffee is so nice, because I'm used to this in Denmark now. So yeah, so these are things that I really want to share. And players also need to understand that living a local professional football is different from playing the professional level. So there's some players, if they go to the professional level, they will say to themselves, oh my God, this is a very hard task, because now you're being a professional. Now you're being restricted with the rules and regulations of certain things. So this is something that is really important. And for me, I always wish every player a very successful journey. It's not a small task. It's not a small job. And also the club owners also, it's not a small investment to see players have to progress and then go to another level. So with this, I would like to share this video, and then the players also who are concerned to listen to this video to understand that being a professional in Europe need to require a lot of things, and need to have a lot of things that you also have to research about the country, most especially if you're signed to go to another country. Research about the country and understand the country, what are the cultures and what are the things that can help me to grow faster. And also the clubs in Africa, you also need to understand that most of these players need to have the basic starts in your club before going to Europe, because it really, really affects them. And also it's really disturbs the clubs that are buying the players, because those clubs also are making the product good so that they can buy it to another club, so that they will say, because you will not like your product to come to another club, say, oh, this product is not a good, we bought it, but it's not a good product. But it's good that also when the product when the product is bought from your club, then that's the player. The product is the player. And now they will be happy to say, oh, we have a very good product that we are buying from here. So it will be a very good business to strengthen the relationship with you and the buyers. So the buyer will say, the product you sent us first was a good product. Now we want another product again. So this is how you make your business to be great. But where you're going to start it is the grassroots side. So I would like to share this video, and thank you for listening.